Hi everyone, so today I will be summarizing Euripides' play Medea and how it relates to the society back then and how it relates to society today. So before I actually start summarizing the story, I wanted to first mention that Euripides was known for writing works that represented people that were oppressed. So back during the 5th century BCE, the plays were written by men, for men, and even acted out by men. But by writing Medea, he was putting women's issues in the forefront in a male dominated society. So now I'll be summarizing the play Medea. So, our main character Medea is first seen having a fight with her husband because he decided to marry the king's daughter. And this is upsetting to Medea because they already have two sons and she has given up pretty much everything in order to support Jason, her husband. So the first part of her plan was to convince Creon to allow her to stay one more day before he completely exiles her from Corinth. And the second is that she convinced her husband that she is okay with him marrying this new woman and begs him to allow their two sons to stay in Corinth with him while she is exiled from Corinth. She was successful in convincing both men, which allowed her to carry out her final part of her plan, which was to murder his new wife, Jason's new wife, as well as their two sons in order to get revenge on Jason. So now I'll be talking about how the play Medea relates to society back then. Medea shows how women were treated by men during that time. Women were seen as a subclass in society back then, and they were supposed to listen and follow men's decisions without fighting back. In the play, Medea left her home and gave up all ties to it to be with Jason. She also gave him two sons, but in the end, her husband Jason leaves her for a younger woman, even after everything that she has done for him. From that instance alone, you can tell that women were not of importance and they were just used for men to benefit for themselves. Another instance I want to talk about is when Medea and Creon were negotiating her exile. So, Creon wanted to exile her because he believed that she would bring harm to his daughter and that she would be a problem for him if he stayed. This shows that during that time, women were seen as a nuisance if they did not obey. Also, it proves my point that women were just used by men for their own benefit. So now I want to talk about how Medea relates to society today. Even though now is not as extreme as it used to be back then, women are still fighting for their own rights. For example, women are now still having to fight for their own decisions for what they want to do with their own body. On top of that, there are still men who believe that women cannot hold power and should not hold power because men are superior. To tie it back to Medea, I want to point out that Medea is a great example of how oppression of a woman can lead her to do extreme things. Although Medea's actions were outrageous and very gruesome, it is similar to how women now are speaking up for themselves and making their voices heard. Women now are fighting back against those in power who have wronged them, just as Medea did. I feel as though this is a story that everyone should read because it talks about oppression and it does cover important aspects of today's society. Overall, it was a very interesting read, and I would highly recommend it to someone who is interested in these topics. So, this was my summarization of Euripides' Medea and my take on how it relates to society back then and society today. Thank you.